Hey everyone. So I had planned to share this as a live session earlier today, but LinkedIn live streaming service decided to throw me a curveball. So instead of leaving everybody waiting, I wanted to go ahead and record the core teaching and share it here. So again, today we're talking about why high achieving women can handle everyone else's stress, but not their own. So maybe you can relate to this. If you've ever found yourself successful on paper, you're the capable one, the reliable one, the person everyone depends on, but you're privately exhausted in ways that even rest or time off don't seem to fix, then today's discussion is probably for you. What I see again and again with high achieving women is something confusing. They can manage teams, crises, deadlines, families, organizations, but when it comes to their own stress or burnout, nothing they do or try seems to stick. And today I wanted to talk about why that happens because it's usually not a motivation problem, not a discipline problem, or even a resilience problem. Much of my work focuses on burnout through a nervous system lens, particularly for women in leadership or high responsibility roles. And one of the biggest misunderstandings about burnout is people assume it comes from doing too much. But what I've actually found is that burnout comes from being chronically activated while still appearing highly functional. So many high performers, they learn very early how to regulate environments, how to anticipate needs, how to solve problems, how to stay composed, how to keep things moving forward. The challenge is that over time, as you do that, that skill becomes internalized. You become excellent at managing external stress while your own nervous system never fully powers down. And most people don't even realize it's happening. So, what I want to do today is walk through three patterns I commonly see. And I say this not just from observation, but from experience, my own lived experience. When your nervous system is under constant pressure, you find ways to regain a sense of control, even if those ways aren't addressing or solving the deeper problem. A lot of high performers develop little strategies to regain control. And sometimes they look productive, and sometimes they're just ways of releasing tension. So let's talk about those patterns. Pattern one I see is activation dependence. So that would be like success that's masking exhaustion. So, for instance, from the outside, everything looks successful, but underneath that success, the nervous system is actually running on exhaustion. And then productivity maintained through activation. And what keeps things moving isn't sustainable energy, it's constant activation, pressure, urgency, adrenaline. So when the body has lived in that state long enough, slowing down doesn't feel relaxing. In fact, it feels uncomfortable. Many women tell me they can't relax even when nothing is wrong. And when someone recognizes that pattern, the next thing they often try is understanding it intellectually. And that brings me to the second pattern: insight without change. Often people intellectually understand burnout. They've read books, they've gone to therapy, they've tried different strategies, but the behavioral change doesn't hold because the nervous system still interprets slowing down as unsafe in the body. So, insight alone doesn't create change if the body still feels like it has to stay activated in order to feel safe. And underneath that, there's a deeper layer, the way identity becomes attached to performance. And so that's the third pattern, identity attachment. And what I see here is worth tied to reliability. So over time, many high achieving women start to tie their sense of self worth to being the reliable one. They also have a fear of disappointing others. And so this whole thing, this pattern, identity attachment, makes the idea of disappointing people feel way bigger than it actually is. And then the third piece is slowing down feels threatening, which we already touched on. So slowing down, it doesn't just feel inconvenient, it can actually feel like a threat to your identity. So as you hear these patterns, I want you to just take a breath for a moment and notice which one your body recognizes most and resonates with: activation dependence, the insight without change, or the identity attachment. And if one stands out for you, I'm always open to you letting me know and we can chat about it. At some point, performance stops being something you do and it becomes who you believe you are. And your own worth is then tied to performance. And this is usually when people realize burnout recovery isn't about pushing harder or even optimizing routines, right? It's about rebuilding internal capacity so success no longer requires that constant activation. Because if the nervous system still believes pressure is required in order to perform, the body will keep recreating that pressure. For example, someone might finally get a quieter week at work, fewer meetings, fewer deadlines, but they don't actually feel relief. They suddenly feel restless or uneasy about it. So they'll start checking their email more often, or take on another project, or solve problems that weren't actually urgent. Not because they're doing something wrong, but because your nervous system has learned that pressure is what makes performance possible. So, a practical takeaway from this is begin noticing when nothing urgent is happening, does your body actually feel calm? And simply noticing that pattern is often the first step toward changing it. For many high achievers, the honest answer is no. It doesn't feel calm, even when nothing urgent is happening. And that awareness alone is the important starting point. So, we're in the midst of a short series here where I'm breaking down patterns I see in burnout recovery. Next week, we'll be continuing this conversation with another topic that comes up a lot: why high performers can't mindset their way out of burnout. So, if anything I talked about in this recording and replay reflected your own experience more closely than you expected, like I said, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to continue the conversation privately. So, I thank you for your time here today and your flexibility with the technical difficulties. These conversations really matter more than people realize. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week.